The Fair West Second Annual Block Party serves as the kickoff for a project to collect stories, facts, and pictures about our neighborhood as told by you. Project outcomes are to expand and sustain intergenerational engagement, compile and document the history of the Fair West neighborhood, create a tabletop exhibit and a video for telling the story of Fair West, and build a neighborhood environment where the residents feel a sense of belonging and connection. This project is made possible through a grant from the Bernalillo County Neighborhood Outreach Program. One of the most notable places in Fair West is Marion Fox Park. Who is Marion Fox, and why is he important? In the 1920s, Marion Fox served as editor of the Albuquerque Journal. Roger Flegel reflects on Marion Fox and his wife, Mary Fox.
He was editor of the Albuquerque Journal.
Oh, no kidding.
But his name is not on the deed. Her name is on the deed. And I don't know how come, whether he was deceased at the time or what. But he admitted, Charlie Fox said that his mother owned all of this land around here.
That's right.
She wanted to use it for a theater, a movie, Hollywood, a second Hollywood, a mini Hollywood. And this is 1923.
Okay, yes, this is in the 20s when she bought all this land.
Lois Goldberg has lived at 812 Palomas for 62 years in a home built by Coda Robertson. Lois attended Monte Vista Elementary School, which started as 3 cottages with 2 grades in each room, with only 1 classroom per grade level. Everyone grew up knowing everyone else. While houses, of course, had full electricity and sewage, the permanent school building was under construction and students used outhouses. These were Depression days. People who were settled in didn't move as often as they do now. Lois married in 1947 after a long-distance courtship. When Lois became pregnant, she and her husband needed a family home. In the post-war boom, there was just no housing available in Albuquerque. People were renting chicken coops. There were apartments near the university, new construction at Hoffmantown, at Princess Jean, behind Highland, and near Gibson. Not much other housing was available, and what would become this neighborhood, they were just building the 900 block. Lois and her husband chose this new development because the homes had no steps. Her husband had been paralyzed on his right side as a World War II paratrooper in training exercises in Australia. He had graduated as a forester and football player from Ames, Iowa, and rehabbed from his injuries at UNM. Many of the few neighbors consisted of other military.
The 1950s were dusty times for the Fair West post-war and war residents. Barely a community, yet neighbors communicated through the interactions of their children, their postman, and grocery store meets. When asked,
what businesses, services, or resources were in the neighborhood during the 1950s?
Peggy Moore had this to say.
The ice rink, where the go-kart place on Carper and San Mateo is now. I would walk there to skate with my friend, and Highland High School was the high school to go to. It was built in 1949. In my graduating class, 90% of us went on to college. Families from the north part of the city would send their kids to Highland.
Highland High School's website pays tribute to people who influenced our lives in special ways. Goodsell Slocum, July 5th, 1990, 85 years old, beloved and most influential math instructor. Betty Kirby Baker, another long-term neighborhood investor, has lived at the Fair West neighborhood for 58 years. Here's what she had to say about the neighborhood and its many changes.
When we moved here, the city was starting this direction, east.
Right.
But after you left the university, down there at university, and past the university, you were thought of as out of town. And you got out this far, there was nothing. And I can remember of having, not in this neighborhood, but Highway 66 was our main freeway, was something you didn't even think of.
Right.
That went all the way through town, right up here, 4 blocks away. 3
Central.
blocks. Yeah, Central. That
part
was
of
Highway 66.
66.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then at 4th and Central, I believe it is, was the dividing, and 85 went north, and 66 continued on.
Right.
When I first, if this is important, when I first came, the first sights that I saw of Albuquerque, I could not spell it, let alone know where in the heck I was. Anyway, was on 9 Mile Hill out there, and I thought, that's it. Just a wide, small, but very colorful downtown.
Right.
And it stayed that way for a long time. Stayed that way. And up here, we were out of, we were just sort of, we were starting to grow back then. We were growing pretty fast.
In 1957, Mary Smith and her family purchased and moved to the second home built by the Grosset family, owners of La Mesa Builders. It was across the street from the first, just south of Marquette and west of Valencia. She could see Mount Taylor from the kitchen window at that time. There was a soda fountain shop at Central and Lavetta, and the pediatrician. Dr. Post's office was on the first block north of Central and Lavetta. Neighborhood associations did not exist at that time, nor were there publications like the Fair West newsletter. Neighbors became acquainted by walking over and introducing themselves when they moved in, or chatting when outside. When the neighborhood crow came to visit her while hanging laundry, she taught him to say, "Hello, Crow."
So I just decided to keep saying, "Hello, Crow, over and over again. And by the time I finished hanging, whatever I was hanging, I heard the crow say, "Hello, Crow."
Still, news was shared by neighbor word of mouth. Men worked together and on weekends helped each other with projects like building patios and room additions. During the Cold War era, her family built a bomb shelter under their garage, as did the Wagner family at the 600 block of Palomas. We had provisions and bedding down there. Later, my husband started making wine, which we learned to do from my Greek family members in California, and converted it to a wine cellar.